Addiction is tearing families apart in parts of South America, but a new Adventist center is offering support, faith, and a fresh start. In Africa, deforestation and hunger are daily struggles, yet local churches are planting trees and growing gardens to bring life back to the land. And in Canada's frozen north, where no roads lead in and help is hard to reach, Adventist pilots are flying mission planes to deliver food, medicine, and hope. These stories and more from the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church are coming up now on ANN. We begin this edition of ANN News by heading straight to Canada, a first world country yet home to vast regions of extreme isolation. Harsh climates, sprawling lands, and entire communities cut off from even the most basic services. Despite the country's wealth, thousands of people live hours away from the nearest hospital. There are no roads, no regular access to food or medicine. To many, these are just forgotten dots on the map. But for those who live out Jesus' call to serve, these places are a priority. Through Adventist World Aviation, a supporting ministry of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, flights cross frozen regions carrying more than supplies. They carry hope.
In the remote regions of Canada, where roads don't reach and access to basic services is limited, flying isn't a luxury. It's a matter of survival. In this report, Adventist News Network follows the work of Adventist World Aviation, a mission bringing physical and spiritual support to some of the most isolated communities.
Hi everyone, my name is Lloyd Douglas. I am a public health physician in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. I've been living in this area with my family, Lisa, Jemai, and Jedediah, for almost 12 years. When I came to this region, I came here as a Bible worker with my family, who is a very young family at the time, and my wife is a nurse. So the town of Sioux Lookout is a small town of about 6,000 people. It's the hub of the north. It's found in northwestern Ontario, and this town would serve many remote First Nations communities. I think the geographic area is larger than the size of France. Our First Nations people are the first peoples of this land, but they have been negatively impacted by colonization. You know, some of the atrocities that they have faced over the years, like the residential school system, the 60s school, the intergenerational trauma from that time continues. And today we are seeing the impacts of that, the impact on the family, the impact on the community. You know, the residential school system that we talked about, many kids were hurt. So now coming to this area and presenting Christ, we have to overcome those barriers, and we have to do that in a loving way. Another challenge is that the area is very vast, and we have remote communities, many of them flying communities. So the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. You know, we are 21 hours drive north of Toronto. We have many people, believers in Toronto, but very few would come to the north. A partnership between the Ontario Conference of Seventh-day Adventists and Adventist World Aviation is a no-brainer for me. These communities are fly-in remote communities. Therefore, you need a plane to fly to these communities. And I'm so happy that we have a plane, Wings for Humanity, doing this work. We know we have had a number of flights bringing in. I remember being on a plane and we're taking food in and other supplies in. And that's the way in which we can reach these communities.
For AWA, each journey is more than a destination. It's a divine appointment to serve, uplift, and inspire.
The effects of the climate crisis are no longer future predictions. They're today's reality. Wildfires, prolonged droughts, floods, and crop failures have turned global communities into emergency zones. But instead of just reacting, ADRA has taken a different approach, cultivating solutions.
In northern Canada, the city of Yellowknife faced historic wildfires and widespread soil contamination. In response, ADRA launched urban gardens using planter boxes to help families restore food security and bring green back to the landscape. The initiative inspired a national campaign promoting sustainable gardens focused on health and environmental awareness. In Zambia, where drought threatens the survival of entire communities, the answer came in the form of seeds, tools, and hands-on training. Today, family and community gardens provide food and knowledge to those who once relied only on rainfall, a response born from faith in a shared, urgent responsibility. Some families harvested what they planted with their own hands for the very first time. A simple act, but a revolutionary one. In Mozambique, the work starts with education. Children and parents learn how to prepare the soil and plant native seedlings. The goal is more than reforestation. It's about raising a generation that cares for the land with awareness and intention. Because protecting creation goes beyond environmental practice, it's part of a divine calling for all of God's children. And in the mountains of Honduras, where wheat can no longer withstand the drought, sorghum seeds are transforming both the land and local diets. Needing less water and offering more nutrition, this simple shift is saving crops, feeding families, and restoring hope through God's care, responding to those who choose to serve. In a world marked by natural disasters and environmental decline, ADRA is exercising humanitarian response and spiritual responsibility, helping communities heal, thrive, and move forward.
In southern Ecuador, a man who once struggled with addiction took a bold step and created a recovery center that offers both social and spiritual support.
Fulton Marrow is 60 years old, and his past was marked by addiction. Moved by his own journey, he sold everything he had to establish the Seventh-day Adventist Social Help Center in southern Ecuador. Over the past 3 years, the center has welcomed 80 individuals. 60 of them have been baptized and are now living a new life of faith. Despite limited resources, Fulton built a vegetable garden to help feed the residents. On weekends, he receives direct support from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, with volunteers mobilizing from the Mission District in the city of Manta. But this place offers more than shelter. It's a space for recovery, spiritual growth, and transformation. Fulton says he learned from Jesus to be a light in the world, and he's been just that for dozens of people who've chosen to leave addiction behind and walk a new path with God. Today, the Beadle Center stands as a symbol of concrete action in the fight against addiction.
Coming up from Indonesia, a sea journey that nearly ended in tragedy. A pastor, government health professionals, and 4 hours adrift in the open water. What seemed like the end became a testimony many now call a miracle.
A jukung is a traditional Indonesian boat. The jukung in this story looked like any regular jukung. It wasn't a special color. It wasn't a special length. It didn't have a special engine. But it had a special passenger. Pastor Edward saw the jukung arrive at the island where he lived. He saw government medical workers get off the boat and visit his village. Then he saw the medical workers preparing to leave on the jukung. He asked where they were going and learned that they were traveling to an island where he wanted to go. On the island lived 3 Seventh-day Adventist families who didn't have their own church. They also didn't have their own boats to travel to an island with a church. They met in one of their homes to worship on Sabbath. But now it was the end of the quarter, and they wanted Pastor Edward to come and worship with them. Pastor Edward didn't have a boat of his own, so he asked the medical workers if he could travel with them on their jukung to the island. They agreed, and the jukung set off Friday afternoon. The jukung sped across the surface of the water. The wind felt good on Pastor Edward's face. He looked forward to worshiping with the villagers. But then a storm struck. The rain fell hard. The wind blew fiercely, but the boat kept speeding through the rough waters. Suddenly, the vroom stopped. The engine fell silent. Pastor Edward and the medical workers and the boat captain looked at one another. All they could hear was the pounding of the rain and the howling of the wind. The boat captain yanked on a cord to try to restart the engine. Nothing happened. He tried again. Yank, yank. nothing happened. The Jukung stopped speeding across the water. Now it was at the mercy of the wind and the waves. It tossed back and forth like a cork in the water. An hour passed, then 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. The medical workers were scared. All were crying. They had heard stories about boats sinking in storms, and they were afraid that they were going to die. One woman, who wasn't a Christian, remembered that Pastor Edward was a Christian who believed in Jesus, and she begged him to pray for the Jukung. At that moment, Pastor Edward heard a voice. The voice was soft and gentle, yet he could hear it above the roar of the rain and wind. It said, "Tell the boat captain to connect the fuel hose to the other fuel tank." On the Jukung were 2 fuel tanks, a regular fuel tank and a backup fuel tank for emergencies. The tanks provided fuel for the boat engine to run. Pastor Edward was surprised to hear the voice, but he didn't argue. He felt like he had to obey. Even though he didn't know anything about boats, he went to the captain and told him to remove the fuel hose from the regular fuel tank and connect it to the backup fuel tank. The captain had already tried connecting the hose to the backup fuel tank, but he didn't argue. He also felt like he had to obey. He immediately pulled the hose out of the regular fuel tank and connected it to the backup tank. Then Pastor Edward called the captain and medical workers to join him in praying to Jesus. The medical workers stopped crying as they strained their ears to listen to the prayer. "Lord Jesus, our lives really are in your hands of mercy," the pastor prayed. "Your will be done." Then he turned to the captain. "Start the engine," he said. The captain pulled the cord to restart the outboard engine. Yank! A split second passed, and the engine sprang to life. Vroom, vroom, vroom. All the medical workers, including the woman who didn't believe in Jesus, exclaimed at the same time, "Praise the Lord!" The rain didn't stop, and the wind didn't die down, but the engine kept roaring, and the Jukung reached the island safely. The medical workers immediately told everyone on the island that Jesus had saved their lives. The Sabbath was an extra special day for Pastor Edward. Not only did he worship on the island, but he also had his own special mission story to tell.
Welcome back. We continue with a special event that inspires prayer, service, and confidence in God's purpose for the city of St. Louis, United States. As the 62nd General Conference session of the Seventh-day Adventist Church approaches, members and local leaders are preparing for a global spiritual movement.
St. Louis, Missouri, will soon become the epicenter of spiritual revival and global decision-making for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. From July 3rd to 12th, 2025, the city will host the 62nd General Conference session, the church's largest and most significant global gathering. More than 2,800 official delegates from around the world will assemble to vote on administrative matters and elect church leadership for the next 5 years. Over 100,000 attendees are expected to visit the America's Center Convention Complex during the 10-day event, which features business sessions, inspiring worship, dynamic musical programs, and an expansive exhibit hall. Yet even before the session begins, the spiritual momentum is already building. Recently, the Ignite St. Louis, One Spirit, One Mission Prayer Symposium brought together church members and leaders at Northside Seventh-day Adventist Church in St. Louis in a powerful evening of united intercession. The event focused on praying for key outreach initiatives tied to the General Conference session, including the Pathway to Health Free Medical Clinic in May, Pentecost 2025 evangelistic campaigns, and a citywide prayer effort. Keynote speakers Chidi Kaijui, Alexander Bryant, President of the North American Division, and international evangelist Mark Finley, called attendees to bold, Spirit-led prayer and faithful service. The event emphasized that every member has a role to play in preparing hearts for what God is about to do, not just in St. Louis, but across the globe.
In Panama, hundreds of young Seventh-day Adventists dedicate their vacation to mission through the Jabez Identity Project. The initiative is transforming communities and lives across the nation.
Nestled between the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, Panama's central and western regions became the heart of a major youth-led missionary movement. For over a month, more than 300 young Seventh-day Adventists dedicated their recent vacations to serving God and transforming communities through the Jabez Identity Missionary Project. Divided into 16 groups, young people arrived from several provinces to the country's western region, where they stayed for 35 days as they preached the gospel and served the community. The initiative led young people to preach the gospel, form small groups, lead Bible studies, and engage in hands-on community outreach. The Jabez Identity Initiative is rooted in the prayer of Jabez from 1 Chronicles 4:9-10. While the project began with high energy and faith, it also faced challenges. In La Floresta, Vacamonte, for instance, initial suspicion from residents led to police involvement. But the young missionaries responded with action, cleaning streets, painting benches, washing cars, and collecting trash. Their acts of service softened hearts and opened doors for spiritual connection. By the end of the project, the young people had made 2,570 missionary contacts, conducted 1,450 Bible studies, and held 16 simultaneous evangelistic campaigns, culminating in 205 baptisms.
Youth engagement, Adventist heritage, evangelism, and health initiatives strengthen the Church's mission across the Euro-Asia region.
In Belarus, more than 95 young people gathered to celebrate the third anniversary of the youth movement Tainik in a warm and joyful event marked by unity, spiritual growth, and praise. The gathering featured inspiring messages, hymns, raffles, and heartfelt video greetings from youth leaders, all contributing to a family-like atmosphere. Leaders from the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Belarus emphasized the importance of youth ministry, praised the growth of Tainik, and encouraged faithfulness to God's principles. The celebration highlighted the movement's continued mission to inspire, connect, and bring the light of the gospel to new generations. A forum held in Kazan brought together approximately 130 participants from various regions of Russia to explore the history and heritage of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, with a special emphasis on the literary and spiritual legacy of Ellen White. Key speakers addressed topics such as the formation of the Church, doctrinal development, the prophetic gift, and the proper interpretation of Ellen White's writings. The event featured lectures, a seminar, and a roundtable discussion, emphasizing Ellen White's significant influence on church organization, education, publishing, and preventive medicine. The forum reaffirmed her enduring role in guiding and shaping Adventist faith and mission. Pathfinder clubs from Tiraspol, Bender, and Dnistrovsk gathered at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Emmanuel, in Tiraspol for the Guardians of the Faith quiz organized by Moldova's church leadership. The event featured multiple stages, including questions on the book Guardians of Emunah, Bible verses and stories, and first aid knowledge. All teams showed strong preparation, with winners receiving useful prizes for future club activities. The day concluded with a shared meal, fellowship, and a final Bible knowledge contest where children earned sweet rewards. In the village of Milkovo, Kamchatka, the Seventh-day Adventist Church held the evangelistic campaign There Is Hope, blending health education with spiritual outreach. Led by regional pastor Evgeny Solomko, the program followed a month of united early morning prayer across Kamchatka churches. The initiative included an art cafe event, spine health lectures, Nordic walking sessions, and free massage therapy, all paired with Bible messages emphasizing spiritual well-being and hope. Local missionaries and church members contributed through promotion and hands-on support. As a result, community interest grew, and guests expressed gratitude while several accepted the invitation to begin Bible studies. Organizers credited God's guidance and the united support of churches across the region for the campaign's success.
More than 60 young people have launched into the 1 Year in Mission program in Argentina, dedicating their time and energy to supporting and uplifting communities in different parts of the country.
The 1 Year in Mission program began its new cycle in Argentina with intensive training aimed at preparing volunteers for service projects across the country. According to Pastor Carlos Campitelli, youth leader of the Seventh-day Adventist Church for the South American region, the program focuses on developing young people's skills and encouraging a generation committed to making a positive impact in their communities. Nearly 60 young people, mainly from Argentina, with others from Brazil, Peru, and Nicaragua, joined the program, many of them pausing their studies or jobs to commit to a year of service. This year's training included virtual preparation and team formation, with participants assigned to their destinations in advance, improving organization and easing stress. Volunteers will serve in 7 cities across Argentina, supporting local initiatives and community development projects. The dedication of these young volunteers reflects a generation eager to make a difference across the nation. The program aims not only to benefit communities, but also to inspire lasting personal growth and a lifelong commitment to service.
Let's head to East Africa, where Advent Health and Kendu Adventist Hospital are working together to expand community care, marking a moment of service and healing.
In Kenya, Advent Health provided a gift to Kendu Adventist Hospital, enabling the acquisition of a CT scanner to improve diagnostic services. The donation was presented during a pre-centennial celebration at the hospital, which has served the community for nearly a century. The announcement coincided with the conclusion of Advent Health's free medical camp, which provided care for more than 2,000 patients and included 60 successful surgeries. Additionally, 100 cataract surgeries were performed through a new eye clinic collaboration between Kendu Adventist Hospital and Tenwek Hospital. This marked the 2nd year of partnership between Kendu Adventist Hospital and Advent Health. A team of U.S.-based health professionals worked alongside local staff to deliver community health services and surgical procedures, demonstrating a shared commitment to advancing health and healing in the region.
In this episode of ANN In Depth, hosts Sam Neves and Kyle Allen, Vice President of the Adventist World Radio 360, talk about the Pathway to Health initiative and the mobile hospital that will be set up at the GC Session 2025 in St. Louis, Missouri. Join us as we highlight key insights from their conversation.
Welcome to ANN In Depth. Today I have Kyle Allen, a pastor and the vice president of AWR, which is Adventist World Radio. But he's on assignment with a very exciting project I want to tell you about. But let's bring him in. Kyle, welcome to ANN In Depth, brother.
Thank you, Sam. It's good to see you.
Excellent. So you're working with Pathway to Health there in St. Louis, where the next mega clinic will be. What is this about?
Well, this is an extremely exciting thing. So we are here in St. Louis. We're actually just a couple of blocks right now from where the GC session is going to be held in July. But right here in the heart of this city, Seventh-day Adventists from across the North American division and really from the world are going to converge in the convention center and set up a mobile hospital. And thousands of people, Sam, are going to come every day and receive free medical care, free dental care, free eye care, even haircuts and massages and lifestyle counseling, among a whole host of other services. And they're going to receive these things in the name of the church and with the love of Jesus. And it's going to be powerful.
That's amazing. It's not the first one, right? So you've done this in the past in other places, LA, San Antonio, and so on. And I was reading, you have some staggering numbers. You know, you've seen tens of thousands of people. I can't remember how many patients I read, but it's a lot.
That's right. Over 40,000 patients in the last 10 years. And we've had over 16 1,000 volunteers, Sam, in the course of the last 10 years, and it's been incredible. I think I misplaced my number here in front of me, but I think it was over $140 million in free healthcare given to the communities over this time. So it's a tremendous blessing, and of course, you can't ever measure that in a dollar figure. It's more person by person, story by story, and it's when you hear those stories of lives changed, people that have not only received help with their physical health or their teeth or getting a pair of eyeglasses, but they're also able to find Jesus. And so many stories we could share of lives that were changed as a result of coming to a Pathway to Health clinic.
To discover more about this impactful project and explore other videos delving deeper into the Seventh-day Adventist faith and its story, visit the official channel on YouTube. That's it for this week's edition of ANN. Want to know more about what the Seventh-day Adventist Church believes? Visit Adventist.org. And to stay updated with the latest news and inspiring stories from around the world, head to Adventist.news. Thanks for watching. Until next time, God bless you.